I haven't shared this yet with anyone, but I had like a very friendly phone call with my dad 2 weeks ago.
No way. Yeah.
I'm Louis Cole. Welcome to the Recharged podcast. In this series, I invite fellow content creators and artists to explore exciting ways to make a difference in the world. I take my guests to visit local social good projects in my self-converted electric 1973 Volkswagen van. We have real and raw conversations about life and hear from social good heroes that we can all be inspired by. And on today's podcast, our guest is Ammar Kandil, an entrepreneur, filmmaker and visionary. Ammar helped launch the YouTube channel Yes Theory 5 years ago with the aim to build a global movement and bring together a community of over 10 million followers around the mission of seeking discomfort and choosing love over fear, with the belief that life's most beautiful moments and meaningful connections exist outside our comfort zones.
It's going to be a tight timing, but I think we're good.
This is the first episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I am honored.
Yeah.
Wow.
Feel honored to have you, bro. Oh, that was good. Okay.
That was great. Thank you for the water.
Yes, of course.
Oh my God, it's so silent.
It's so silent, right?
Oh my God. What's the range on the battery?
So, I'm making a whole video about this on my channel, but I think it's about 150 miles it averages.
Okay.
I think if you were driving really conservatively and it was like very flat, maybe you get 180.
Okay, that's not bad. Thank you for having me as the first guest on your podcast.
Yeah, I've been dreaming of doing a podcast in my van for a couple of years now, so it's all kind of come together. And I just thought on the way here, you're pretty familiar with this van because I had this parked at the Yes Theory house for like 2 years, broken down.
Oh my God, this is the same one.
Yeah. So I had this parked at Ammar's last house, broken down, the engine was completely fried, and we ended up, I remember one night pushing it to our house, had it parked there for a while, and then eventually I've resurrected it as electric.
Oh my God.
How fun is that?
That is, what a full circle moment.
Yeah. So I thought we've got limited time. I feel like most podcasts, you're sitting in a room and you can just like go as long as you want, but the format is we're going to drive down and visit this guy, which I kind of want to keep a surprise, to be honest, but we're going to go visit this guy, see what he does, hear a bit of his story, and then we'll chat on the way home as well.
Great. I'm such a big fan of Louis because he truly, everything he talks about when it comes to community, he actually applies in his own life, in his own circles, and what he's been able to create in Venice has been so amazing to watch. From just Jungle Brooks to the Venice Beach House, it's been so amazing to just see you be see your leadership in creating these spaces and these experiences for people that come from all over the world, wanting to also have a shot at trying this lifestyle and actually being in the pursuit of the dream. So I have so much admiration and respect for you and for what you do.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Of course.
So I was thinking, just in case there's someone watching that doesn't know who you are and what you do you want to briefly, I'm sure you've done this a million times, but briefly talk about Yes Theory, how you set it up, and kind of a brief story of your journey?
Wow.
Just brief, and then we'll jump into details.
Okay, wow. Well, that is I'll start by saying that, my name is Ammar, and I am 26 years old. I am Egyptian, born and raised. I left Egypt when I was 15 years old to pursue education abroad. I went to boarding school in South Africa for 2 years at the African Leadership Academy, and while I was there, the Egyptian Revolution broke out, and that became such a pivotal moment in my life where I was so passionate about what was going on. I was so passionate about seeing change come about in my home country, and I was also just amazed by the way people were using social media and technology and all the tools that were starting to be more available, more prevalent to actually drive that change. So after my high school experience, I decided to do a gap year in San Francisco, where I got a very immersive experience in the tech world, because I realized that was my passion. I was very interested in the intersection of storytelling, technology, and social media. And I ended up just going to San Francisco with the plan to not go to university and go back to Egypt after that gap year, but the country continued to politically and socially, it wasn't doing too well after the revolution. We're going through a lot of transitions, so I decided to move to Canada and go to university there. I got another scholarship. I was in British Columbia for 2 years, and then I ended up moving to Montreal, which is when things get interesting. I need some water. Wow. At least I left it at a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Okay. I had this app idea that I wanted to create, and I decided to move to Montreal with a friend of mine from school to raise capital so that I can create an MVP for the app and hire engineers and build a team. Bear in mind, at this point, I'm like 20 years old. Just my first shot at doing something. So I spent 5 weeks in Montreal, and in the sixth week, I realized that maybe Montreal wasn't the right place to raise money. So I decided to move to New York, and I, my mentor gave me her apartment there, and I had a full setup in Brooklyn and an internship and another startup founder that I was gonna, shadow and learn from. But one night, like a few days before I was supposed to leave Montreal, I was walking in the neighborhood where the students that go to McGill University in Montreal live, and I end up hearing a sound coming from a bunch of noise coming from a rooftop, and I quickly realized that it was just a party. And I end up sneaking in. I went upstairs. I started talking to people about who I am, what I was doing, why I was in Montreal, and everybody quickly started pointing me at this one guy, Thomas. And in about half an hour, I end up running into Thomas, and it was this moment of like instant connection, instant chemistry, and we just very quickly got to talking about our dreams and aspirations and the kind of life that we wanted to live. And then Thomas told me, "Oh, you have to meet my friend Matt." And within 2 days, I had met Matt, and it was also, we had shared a very similar moment of just like instant connection and just flow between the three of us. And Thomas got to talking to me about what he was trying to do that summer, which is an experiment he called Project 30, where he gets to do 30 things he's never done before in 30 days and make a video about it every single day to tell the story. And he's been, dabbling with YouTube. He had he started a channel in college called Practical Procrastination, where he was doing comedy skits, and it was a part of a school project, but he really enjoyed the process of YouTube. And so, we got to talking about it, and we just very quickly found ourselves just doing it together. So we did Project 30. When we did that, we at the end of the 30 days, we looked at each other, and we just realized that that was the best month of our life, and this is the deepest we've ever felt about other human beings. And that friendship that was growing was very powerful and very significant. And that made us realize that, well, what we did there was the experience of seeking discomfort. And if seeking discomfort can create such a powerful friendship and such a powerful bond, then this certainly is a scalable experience that through storytelling, we can continue to show people that by doing these things, you will end up aligning with people who also want similar things in life. I end up not going back to school for the following semester, and Matt ended up dissolving his business that was running. He ended up quitting his bartending job, and Thomas put aside all his plans to also start his tech company. And we just all committed, and within 4 months of making videos together after Project 30, we got a very interesting email. The email said, "Do you want to come to Venice Beach, live in a house together, and get paid to make the videos that you love making?" And it was actually Vertical Networks, which was a company that was a joint venture between Elizabeth Murdoch and Evan Spiegel, founder of Snapchat. And bear in mind that at that point we had like 10,000 subscribers. It wasn't even, we weren't big or anything, but they really resonated with the ethos of what we were trying to do. And obviously, at that point, we're still trying to figure it out, understand what is it that we're actually trying to do and what stories we're trying to tell. But, we were very blessed that certain people there, saw the vision and were able to, bring us on and help us even further develop that vision. And yeah, we end up moving to Venice Beach, and we're able to just build an amazing community by literally just going out and going out on the street and filming our videos. By getting people to say yes, that became our filter of meeting exactly the right people. Even like that's how we met BC. That's how we met so many people that are like in our circle now. We worked with Snapchat for a year, and then we decided that after that year, we're just gonna go full time on our YouTube channel and continuing to just build that and create the vision that we truly saw behind Yesterday, which is definitely more than just a YouTube channel, but rather a full ecosystem that can, serve the community through stories and products and services and everything and anything that can actually enhance this experience for people in the Yes Theory community. I'll tell you the first time I came across Louis. It was at VidCon in 2016 when we first moved to LA.
Wow.
It was actually the first thing that we did when we moved to LA, because
and this is still when you had like 10,000
Oh, this
subscribers.
is like nobody knows who we are, but I remember Matt and Thomas coming out from maybe the Studio 71 party, and they were so stoked because they ran into you in there, and they were saying, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and we were talking to you about just the experience of traveling and filming, because this is what we were trying to do at that point, and just the first impression is just he was such a kind, generous guy.
I want to backtrack to this moment you were talking about of like you had this whole other plan for your life, and there was a moment which a lot of people would consider insignificant that changed the course of your life.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about it before as this like serendipitous moment.
Yeah.
And that's something I really relate to you on, where like there's been those kind of moments in my life as well, where like at the time you almost, it's one of those things that you could so easily not do, or like it's such a small decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the ripple on effect, you could have no idea of what could happen.
Yeah. I want to bring it back to actually the moment that you're referring to, because I had, back to Montreal, that first meeting Matt and Thomas. The idea was that I would just help with the first week of, setting up Project 30. I had some experiences with camera and filming, and but the idea was that I would just go to New York and do what I was set out to do, because I was still set on working on the startup. I believed in the idea, and I just wanted to see it through. But 2 days before I was supposed to leave, I had the train tickets booked to New York from Montreal. 2 days before we left, one night we were just jamming, and obviously throughout the week Matt and Thomas were just trying to talk me out of the internship, and they're saying, stay with us, this will be a great experience. And I obviously had no doubt. It was already the best time of my life already that week. But I just, again, I wanted to follow through with my other plan. But we were just having a brain jam that night, the Friday before the Sunday I was leaving. And I had such a strong moment of just connection to my intuition, and it was almost it came in the form of it came in the form of a flash forward feeling, where I just experienced the moment of joy as a grown-up man with Matt and Thomas. I was with these guys. I was meant to just be with them and grow with them.
So the guys have persuaded you to stay.
And again, as I said, I just couldn't unsee or unfeel that, and I decided to put everything on hold and fully commit, because I just really believed in the power of the experience that we were having together, and I wanted to see that through more than anything that I have ever wanted to see through in my life. And I just really believed in the power of what stories can do, and what fully committing to other humans can do, which is what the experience of Yes Theory is all about.
And obviously I see you really and I feel like this is something that's we've bonded on, is this wanting to make the most of life, grab every opportunity. I mean, that's the whole thing with Yes Theory. It's it's not living from a place of
Fear.
And seeking discomfort as well. It's almost doing things even if you are afraid.
Yeah.
It's better to do something afraid than wait until you might have the courage to do it one day.
Absolutely. I mean, the question that we always try and remind ourselves of is, if you're 99 years old and you're on your deathbed and you had a chance to come back to today, what would you do? And the practice is to always make sure that your answer to that is to be doing exactly what you're doing right now. And that's just been a question that creates like a great framework for going about decision making in your life. And it was actually our friend Jerome Jar that, I think we heard it from first.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. Freaking love Jerome.
He's a legend.
What question for you personally are you most trying to answer
Ooh.
in your life right now?
How can we create the optimum human experience? And how can I, through my work with Yes Theory and my dream of creating the city that I would like to create, be able to bring about some of these elements that can actually enhance people's lives and allow us to be the utmost present with this amazing gift that we get to have by living on this planet, by being at the time that we're in right now and having all the tools that we have. If connectivity is a human right, because my experience with the Egyptian revolution was just so, such a powerful one that made me think like, well, if we were able to do something that was deemed impossible, which is bring about change in Egypt with just using Twitter and using this thing, then is it unfair for other people in different parts of the world to not have access to these tools right now?
With this whole wanting to create the optimal human experience, and the way I sometimes describe it is like a place where we can thrive.
Yeah.
And we look around us, and although in many ways I'm just unbelievably grateful for everything I have in my life, the community, just so much, I also see so much suffering in the world.
Yeah.
And
especially as someone who traveled, you've really had the perspective,
and I feel it's that thing of we live in systems which maybe, I don't know, maybe for us, and especially me being a white man and you being a man, there's privilege and ways the systems are built specifically for us.
Yeah.
But we need to continue to strive to create this optimal human experience, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So with that question in mind, what have you already identified as core parts of the human experience that really make it what it should be?
Well, I'll start with, we're figuring it out. That's what the Yes Theory is all about. It's an experiment, it's an ongoing experiment, but so far, what has brought us the most fulfillment is the experience of seeking discomfort and continuously building a community of people who are aligned with your values and your vision for what you want to create for the world. For some reason, I'm thinking about in my personal life, the cold exposure being one of those elements for the optimum human experience. And my whole experience with Wim Hof, that was
that falls into the Seeking Discomfort thing in a way as well, doesn't it? It's okay, so firstly, bro, this is so aligned. Me and Raya are planning to move down to Costa Rica. I feel a lot of people right now are questioning okay, what, it's almost like we were shaken awake last year from firstly the pandemic and secondly the Black Lives Matter movement, which was continuing, but really I think got a lot more people's attention last year.
Yeah.
And it highlighted there's so many systems, whether it's people that are suffering with job insecurity, housing insecurity, and even food insecurity, during COVID, the amount of people that have gone homeless or have gone without food or were living so close to the poverty line or in poverty that where we've actually probably been okay over the last year, there's a lot of people who haven't. And then Black Lives Matter really highlighting racial injustice. So it's I guess everyone's at that point now where we're okay, how do we redesign how do we rethink society because it's not serving everybody in the way that it's serving some people?
Yeah.
And a lot of that's deprogramming, deconditioning, and asking the questions that you're asking, and like experimenting and being willing to step out. I think a lot of people don't, and a lot of people don't seek discomfort because of the same reason, because of fear. And specifically a fear of failure. So this is a question that might be uncomfortable, but you can answer however you want. What do you think's been your biggest failure in life, and how have you responded or overcome that failure?
I think it's the failure of fully being able to communicate what is it that I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing to my family, to create more of a bridge and more of an understanding and less of a conflict because of the lifestyle that I live or the life choices that I made, which, you know, in 2018 became very clear that there was like this breaking point that was bound to happen between me and my family, and specifically with my father. Just him not really understanding the path that I chose, and him wanting me to just have a job that he can understand, that he can connect with, because he just didn't connect with seeing me on YouTube, I don't know, getting waxed or asking strangers to go skinny dipping, all things that were very culturally different and created a lot of conflict with my culture and my religion. But, you know, I was just coming to understanding my own values, and I wanted to just go about that experience with, you know, freedom, which, as I said, came to create a conflict with my parents. But I end up making the decision. My dad gave me an ultimatum to either pick my path with the S theory or my relationship with him, and that was another moment where I had to stay so connected to my intuition and what I thought in my heart was just right for me, and, you know, commit to yes theory. And that ended up creating such a painful, distant, and such a hard relationship with my family, and particularly my dad. But you know, actually, like, I haven't shared this yet with anyone, but I had like a very friendly phone call with my dad 2 weeks ago.
No way.
Yeah. And
I was going to ask how things have been, because you've shared online a lot about
I end up I had 2 other phone calls over the past since 2018 with him. One was for my sister's wedding, and the other was when I got in a car accident that almost took my life. And then most recently it was when I called for my mom's birthday, which was last month, and he was just sitting in the room, and I ended up talking to him, and there was such a good moment there that I haven't experienced in 3 years. So I'm hoping that, you know, this is a moment where I can acknowledge that there is more I can do in really trying to bridge that gap, and explaining to him that, you know, I'm just going about my own life, trying to make my own decision and learn from my own experiences, and just hope that, you know, he accepts that. So I would say I'm proud of myself for holding my ground, but I feel like fear of rejection and fear of having more of hard moments with my family and my dad have prevented me from sharing more of my life with them over the past 3 years. And I'm hoping that I take these learnings and, you know, continue with my life trying to be better at that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, bro. And I think, like, I feel incredibly grateful that I've always felt fully supported by my parents, but I know a lot of people live in that place where there's a fear of disappointing your parents. I think most of us probably have that. Like, I would hate to disappoint my parents.
Yeah.
And there's a fear of doing something that our parents wouldn't approve of or don't understand, like you've done. Is there anything else you've learned that could help people watching that have a rift with their parents right now because of something, maybe it's a lifestyle choice that they are choosing to have, or a career path, or whatever it is.
I think
Obviously you're in the journey still of really understanding how to heal that divide, but is there any bits of advice that you think you have?
I'd say just always holding on to believing that whatever way your parents are acting with you just comes from a place of love. Even if it's shown in not so pretty ways, I truly believe that it's always out of love. And if you're hurt in the process, then it means that they were also hurt at some point in their lives, and it's just that generational trauma continuing to pass down. So that's something that certainly helped me be able to handle life and continue doing what I'm doing, just always knowing that even in these moments of deep pain and continuous rocky interactions with my family and my dad, it just all came from a place of love and a place of him just really wanting to set me on the right path, and that's just his way of showing me love. Just like my mom's way of showing me love has always been through prayer. My mom wasn't necessarily she wasn't physically affectionate, but she prayed. She would spend hours and hours and wake up in the middle of the night to just pray. And that was, and when I was a kid, I didn't understand. I always thought I wasn't getting enough physical affection. That made me almost frustrated. But then later on, you just understand that people have different ways of expressing love, and her way of expressing love to me was through prayer. And and it's
like the love languages, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's through that prayer that I attribute so much of my success and so much of this divine protection that has truly kept me safe over the years. And I fully believe that it's all the positive energy that she puts through prayer, and I'm just so grateful for her, and hope that I get to be back Egypt soon, because I haven't been in 4 years now, and I really miss it. I'm starting to feel homesick.
I'd love to hear what's most lighting you up. What are you most passionate about right now in this chapter in your life? What's were you most excited to jump out of bed to go and do? What are you falling asleep at night still thinking about?
Absolutely.
What lights you up?
I think with the experience of 2020, COVID, and just everything that went down, and hopefully being at a point where we can see an end for this darkness, at least in the world opening up and people being able to travel more and just be together more. I wake up every morning wanting to prime Yes Theory to be a great access point for people to re-experience the world through community, through experiences for things to do out in the world, live events, just obsessed with the idea of how can Yes Theory be someone's way of experiencing the world in the most exciting way they ever have. And through this break, through this time off from regular programming in the world because of 2020, we've gotten to establish a lot of these systems and frameworks within our business and within just our daily operations. So when it's time for people to be together again and do things together again, Yes Theory can be their way of doing that very effectively, and creating more of this serendipity and more of this just sense of unity in the world, which we're seeing every single day, self-organized just by the community and by the Yes Fam all over the world, just deciding even during COVID to do all these living room concerts and sessions where people from all over the world got to share their stories. It was really beautiful to watch, and at a time where 2020 was really hard for us because it completely flipped our world. Yes Theory thrives off the friction with people and ideas and places, and all of a sudden, actually this week last year, that was the last normal week, right? Yeah,
it's been a year.
Yeah, it's
How
crazy
is that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And all of a sudden we couldn't do any of that, and the inspiration flipped from people being inspired by Yes Theory videos and Yes Theory stories. At that point, we were inspired by seeing the community self-organize and be there for one another. And we got to participate in some of these Zoom parties and live concerts. It was just so beautiful to watch. So yeah, the way I see it is, there's like phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 was figure out what is it that we want to say, and how do we say it in the best way possible. And I believe we're at a really good spot right now. And phase 2 is taking all these learnings and scaling it outside of just the content that we make. Ultimately, I would like for someone to see a video on the internet and say, oh, that feels like a Yes Theory video, in the same way people see a Disney story or a Pixar story and be like, oh, that's that. So that's phase 2, and the bigger we can get, the more prevalent the idea and the principle of seeking discomfort and saying yes will be. And then phase 3 is actually taking all of that and creating the live experiences and the physical spaces that will help develop the community even further.
Amazing.
That's the master plan.
Yeah, I've always loved that you dream big. It's like, I think that's what I've loved. I kind of love that about Venice. I know there's different pockets around the world, but I've found plugging in with you guys and other mutual friends in Venice, it's like everyone's dreaming big, and it's not just about building their own wealth, but it's about changing the world.
Yeah.
So it's the Venn diagram of like, you dream big, you have huge ambition, and it's centered around like bettering the world around you rather than just accumulating your own wealth.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes me excited as well. So I love that that's what you guys are working on.
Thank you, man. It's been a blessing being in, a lot of that dream is shaped by being in Venice. It's not like, 5 years ago when I started Yes Theory, I was like, oh, this is the dream and, I want to create a city. It's by being in a place like Venice and interacting with the community that we, built and became a part of, is how I end up realizing that that's my dream, and that's what I want to continue to scale and bring that little experiment, the different pockets that we've created in Venice, in 506, the old Yes House, and Jungle Brooks, and how do we just take that and make it more of an experience for more people who might not be able to move to Venice. How can we just bring that to different places around the world? And this is where my whole dream of creating a city comes from. I wanna create a decentralized city. I want to create a city that has branches, that that takes over like different blocks and pre-existing cities, but bring that culture that we are starting to develop and understand by practicing the Yes Theory, and how does that actually manifest in physical touch points for the brands that people can interact with and meet at. And but yeah, like I don't want a city that is in some country that people in Egypt can't get a visa for, because that's definitely certainly my experience. I want to make sure that that city comes to Egypt, that city goes to Zambia or South Africa or Paris or whatever it is. Like I want to see this vision be in a network of spaces all over the world.
Yeah, no, that's such an unconventional way of thinking about a city, because you think of geographically in one space.
Yeah.
But the more that we have become this global web, and the way that younger generations specifically think it isn't geographical.
Yeah. And decentralization is just the way of the future, and it's very prevalent in every facet around us right now. So I really think that the next great city is going to be decentralized.
Cool, I think we're here.
Today we are visiting Ryan Harris, a surfer, ocean enthusiast and environmentalist who co-founded Earth Technologies, the world's first zero-waste surfboard production factory. He also co-founded One Planet, One People for surfers of colour, supporting climate action, racial and social equality, and is breaking stereotypes as a Black American in the surf industry. Ryan believes in leaving this planet a better place than when we came into it and protecting it for the next generation. The US produces 42 million metric tons of plastic waste per year and ranks as high as third among the coastal nations for dumping trash and other waste into its shorelines. Shockingly, only 9% of the world's plastic waste has ever been recycled, so improving recycling efforts is a priority, and then transitioning to biomaterials has to be the long-term goal. But with the plastic industry planning to increase production by at least 35% in the next 10 years, it can't just be down to the individual to solve problems like this. There has to be a change on a systemic level.
Therefore, it's going to be nearly impossible to demand a stop to the endless production of single-use and throwaway plastics without bigger legislations that push industries towards cleaner and more sustainable products. I'm excited to see how Ryan and Earth Technologies are leading the way.
Okay, this is Ryan. This is who we've come to visit.
How you doing?
And yeah, I drove here in my 1973 van that last year I converted to electric. So I took the engine out and put this motor, and it's running off Tesla batteries.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it still needs a little bit of work. It's a bit of a mess, but it's kind of a DIY.
Yeah, dude, this is so gnarly. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love it because it's got that kind of fun, vintage, hippie vibe, but also it's now more environmentally friendly.
That's so nuts.
I'd love to hear a bit of your story and see what you do.
Well, yeah, you're going to see it. About 3 years ago, I created the first zero waste initiative in the surfboard manufacturing industry. And in the surfboard manufacturing industry, it's very wasteful.
Yeah.
It's very toxic. There was a report done by Sustainable Surf, and what they found was your average traditional poly shortboard weighs about 6 pounds, and double the weight of the finished board is generated in waste to make the product. Eco boards are good, they're better than their toxic counterpart, but I'm still creating a lot of waste. I can't just chuck fiberglass in a regular recycling bin like cardboards, cans, bottles. That's what you put out in recycling, not excess resin, stir sticks, brushes, gloves, squeegees, masks, all these things. And so what I'm going to show you guys is how we figured out to put that end cap on the waste. And not only that, we do what I call live upcycling. So we literally make products live on the fly using our excess resin and upcycle and turn them into usable lifestyle products. And then what we'll get into later with the skateboards is just like the holy grail, where we use every single bit of our waste to make these products. So you don't smell anything in here, and that's the number one thing people fucking lose it on, because, pardon my French, if they're used to surfboards, they're used to that smell. So these are like our lifestyle products. I'm gonna give you guys a bunch of goodies before you leave today, but it started with just coasters, and I'll literally...
And this is the excess resin.
Yeah, so that's excess resin. I will show you a
Sick.
board that came off of, because it matches the board, and we usually put a little cork pad on
Do
the
we have
back.
time to make something like this?
Yeah. So the surfboard starts like that, right? This is we call this a blank.
So what material is this?
It's basically styrofoam.
That's styrofoam.
And so the reason
Did
we
you
do
originally? I think I found you because of
Worms.
A long time ago, you had
Worms.
worms, right?
Yeah.
Or a few years ago, you had worms
and
that ate the styrofoam.
they were gnarly, but it basically, so there's this Hawaiian guy named Eddie Garcia who's in Maui, and he went fishing one day and was getting these super worms as bait, and they ate through his cup. He thought his cup spilled over, and they're all over his seat, like loosening his seat. And he's like, "The hell?" And he basically figured that out. He discovered that, and then he figured out this whole ecosystem where it's pretty gnarly and actually really disgusting. Like they eat their own poop, and they keep filtering that out and through.
Keep eating.
Yeah, and so basically it keeps breaking the styrofoam down. They've got this bacteria in their gut that can take an inorganic material such as styrofoam and turn it organic. So they literally poop out soil.
What?
Yeah, but it's this whole ecosystem with all like earthworms and fungus, and it's gnarly. Has to be temperature controlled. If it's too hot, they die.
So eventually you're like this.
Yeah, well, and they're expensive. You have to buy them.
Yeah.
And we had, so we were kind of like a test kitchen for them, and we had about 10,000 of them, and they basically eat a board worth of foam a week.
Okay.
So we'd need millions.
What was it that drew you to really caring about the waste that was happening? Because obviously a lot of surfers have this like relationship with the ocean where they're like, I love the ocean, but then like you were saying, it's been historically such a toxic, wasteful industry that maybe a lot of surfers aren't even aware of.
The thing that's gnarly to think about is the original surfboard, and I talk about this a lot. The original surfboard was an eco board because it was wooden. Yeah. There was no fiberglass, no gnarly resin. It was literally like linseed oil or coconut oil or something lacquered on a hand-shaped wooden board that was actually shaped from a fallen down tree. They didn't chop down trees, and they surfed them. And so fast forward to a couple hundred years later, World War II and foam, fiberglass, right? And this toxic board that is the norm was created. So it's a way to get back to the original without using those materials.
Was there something specific for you though that like triggered this, or have you always cared about like trying to be?
I think it has to do with just, I grew up in Oregon and it's super green and fishing and kind of growing up on the land and all that, your product of your environment. And then I worked in a traditional glass shop. I'd come home and the wife would be like, dude, you freaking reek. You have resin oozing out of your pores. And it's actually, this is, again, being the timing, we've recently in the last month lost 4 legendary, like iconic shapers. Not all from, I want to say toxic chemical poisoning, but at least half of them died from making surfboards in the traditional.
And is that from like inhaling toxins, lung cancer and
your
stuff
biggest
like that?
organ is actually your skin, okay? And so even though you might have all the protection on and the gnarly respirator to protect you from the fumes, what is not getting protected is your skin. And over time, it builds up, and it's not, I say it's not a if, it's a when. It will kill you. And it'll get your lungs, it goes after your brain. It's neurological stuff. It's pretty gnarly. So I got into it for a couple different reasons, but I'm very passionate about this. I'm constantly trying to figure out, okay, how can we do better? What's the next thing I can make using our waste, right? And so for me, the holy grail was reducing my carbon footprint to a point where we have a circular system. We close the loop on waste. And so we have the first circular system in the surfboard manufacturing industry, as opposed to the linear economy, buy it, throw it away, buy it, throw it away.
On the way here, we were talking about how do we redesign systems? How do we reimagine humanity?
Yep.
And obviously surfing is your passion. That's one amazing thing that helps people thrive. And how can you take that and be like, okay, how can I make this so it's not causing harm to the world?
Yep.
So I love that.
The alignment of just personal passion with wanting to leave the world a better place and be it's just amazing how you had your Venn diagram and the place that you're operating right now.
People thought I was crazy because we actually did start with the worms first. Once, and it's funny because I got this video, I thought it was CGI because it was a broken stand-up paddleboard getting eaten from the inside out, and at the end of the video there's nothing left and these worms crawling all over it. And I was like, dude, if they can do that with styrofoam, they can do that with my shaping disc. That's a third of my waste. And then the gears started grinding. And so now I'll kind of show you the rest of it because it's basically, I did a bunch of research on recycling centers. All right, and okay, well they recycle their plastic bottles somehow. What are they using? And it's a high density plastic shredder. What is resin? It's high density plastic. So as soon as I figured that out, I was like, oh my God, I think we can shred all this stuff.
With the worm thing as well, I love that you tried that as part of the process, because part of it's like wanting to try the crazy ideas like that maybe they don't pan out long term. They're like, okay, we tried that path. We'd need 1 million worms to make it work properly. But I love that you tried it, man.
It ran its course. I mean, they were kind of like the mascot for the EcoBoard movement for a little minute. So this is where we make our lifestyle products. So these are little plates for jewelry or whatever.
So this is bio. This is a bio set.
It's a bio-based epoxy. You know, in any other glass shop, all this resin is garbage. It's literally, it goes on the floor and then it gets tossed. These guys catch the majority of the excess resin. And then look, once a week we'll just peel this off, chuck it straight in the shredder.
Wow.
And
wait, and that shredded stuff you then use?
That we can upcycle it into anything. That's the inside of the skateboard. And this is every single type of waste stream in my shop. Everything. There's foam, acetone, squeegees, stir sticks, all this shred. So it's basically foam and shred. The line we're using to describe it is the world's first 100% recycled core composite skateboard. We've already had one get run over by a car, and it was fine.
Wow.
Regular deck would have snapped. In September of 2020, we did a COVID board. We did the first ever surfboard made from recycled and upcycled masks. One of my employees who actually, when COVID hit a year ago in March, when all the restrictions went down, he was working at Starbucks part-time, and he started collecting masks and said, hey, I want to do this contest. Do you think we could build a board with masks? And I was like, yeah, let's get it. So we got the broken soft top, shaped it down, and basically made a veneer out of the mask. And a lot of people can't tell what it is until you get up close. You can see the ear straps, and you can fully tell those are masks. Yeah. It's the new, to me, it's kind of the symbol of COVID. It's these freaking masks.
Disposable masks.
That are just everywhere. All right, let's go upstairs. We'll show you the shred quarters. Jeff, we're coming up. Cool.
As you heard, Ryan has created this shred.
There you go.
We use the shred to make the cores, which are then turned into skateboards.
Well, look at them.
Yeah,
they're beautiful. They're all different colors, so we're trying to figure out a certain look.
So even the rails are actually
it's crazy.
recycled because when we infuse the board with resin, we let the cables dry out and then we strip them down and we use it to reinforce the rails.
So it's like a bumper guard, basically. That's all upcycled tubes of resin all the way around it.
And so even the top, the grip tape here is recycled glass. Huh? Yeah, it's
sprayed on.
Yeah, it's sprayed on.
Oh, okay.
When I started making all these things out of the zero waste system, I was like, oh man, we can make so much cool stuff. I bet I can make a skateboard. So I had the idea, but I never got around to doing anything. And Marcelo, he created the shred skateboard, he just did it and surprised me one day and was like, hey, check this out. And I lost my mind. And
you were like, okay, we need to, this is a business.
Yep.
I love this guy.
Oh my
He's
god.
amazing.
I know.
I like just meeting people like this just gives me so much hope. It's like,
Yeah.
I gotta get a picture with you guys before I forget.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
For the gram.
Yeah, there's something inspiring about, like, even though like surfing's not my passion, like I enjoy it, but it's like, it's still contagious.
Yeah.
Like his like enthusiasm.
like your passion is my passion.
Yeah,
And when when you see that in someone who's found a way to align their life with what they love and figure out a way to make it good for the world, that's the most inspiring thing.
I was going to ask you, like, how's it been? Because I know like the surf industry is a pretty white industry, right?
Fucking crazy. And it's nuts because you can date surfing back to Samoa and actually like the Ivory Coast of Africa, like 1700s. As soon as you get outside the US, it's every single ethnicity out there is surfing. But here, it's this super whitewashed thing. And it's crazy. One of the reasons I'm so busy is we had the COVID pandemic and people just want to be outside. Yeah. B, in June, we had the height of the BLM. And because during a year of a pandemic that is connected to the environment, no matter how you chop it up, the surfboard industry, I've been around for 20 years and I'm the leader of this eco-board movement. So we got a lot of publications, a lot of press out of the sustainability thing. And then that same press, hey, Ryan, you're like the only black guy we know making surfboards, so let's talk about it.
Do you think there's a big crossover with like environmental injustice and racial injustice?
Dude, it's all connected. Intersectional environmentalism, it is literally connected. Yeah. And that's one of the takeaways is we gotta take care of it. We gotta take care of the BIPOC community and we gotta take care of our planet before it's too late.
I still can't believe this is bio, that this is like a resin. So have you announced the skateboards yet? People know they're coming?
Yeah. Like, we have our own shred skateboards, Instagram.
Okay. So it's like you're just ramping up, like they're starting to sell on you're like launching the store.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And we're going factory direct. I've already had to tell a bunch of retail shops no, because we're not, like, the idea is limited edition, high-end, small batch.
Yeah, I feel like I need to just get better at kind of my waste. I think partly it's like looking at all your supply chains and where things are coming from, how ethically they're
Think
sourced.
about like Uber and Uber Eats, takeout, whatever, however you get your to-go food, how much of it comes wrapped in plastic? Most of it. That's something you can't.
Yeah, we try and only eat places where they only have cardboard.
Yeah, but you can't, you got to do your research first. Yeah. That's nothing you can really, and I've even suggested to a lot of our favorite eateries like, hey, don't put my shit in a plastic bag. Let me come, grab it, whatever plastic containers you're putting my food in. Like, we do pho a lot. and you can't.
They always
they're-
come in the plastic. don't they?
Yeah, which we then just use to mix resin in, and I can shred them. But like mason jars, just put everything in mason jars. All right, so we squeegee this on. That's the first step. I want to get it all worked out evenly. So now we do our brush coat. Dude, you already see how much leftover resin I have sitting here in my bucket.
Yeah.
Do exactly what I'm doing, side to side all the way down to the tail.
Do you want to have a little go, Ammar?
Yep. And now, this is what we're gonna play with. I want you guys to pick out some colors, and we're just gonna make some coasters and shot glasses.
I'll do orange and blue, this one.
Cool. Yeah. Those look great. So now I'm not even making surfboards. I'm just playing with my waist like a 5-year-old. All right. You grab that one.
Okay.
You grab that one.
Oh, wow.
And we're gonna pour. Let's
Oh,
see.
yours looks so crazy.
Let's see.
There's a pyramid?
That's that guy right there.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Fill it up about halfway.
Halfway.
Yeah. Perfect. Now come over here and throw some in one of these coasters. That looks so sick. Yeah, that looks dope. All right, you're next, bud.
Okay, where shall I?
Whatever
straight
you
into here?
want. Go in this coaster for your coaster.
Nice. Nice.
Cool.
We can take our gloves off now, right?
Oh yeah, you're good to go. But we're gonna put them in the glove bin.
This is the key. This is the whole point. This is literally the whole point. The gloves go here, right?
Yep. That's.
Someone's got to put gloves in this one.
I know. See?
That is just, that's not on.
It's annoying.
I'm just so inspired, man. Like, so inspired. How are you feeling, Ammar?
I'm mind blown.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely want to be back
Thing is
here.
how we can scale the shred. You know, what we're doing here can be applied to a lot of other industries, and that's kind of the whole hope is people see our story and figure out, oh wow, we can do that. So, pretty rad.
You guys want to try out the surf?
Yeah, I would love to try it.
Yes, bro.
Whoa. That's sick.
Oh, it's like super loose trucks, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Can you, like, is that what you like pump that and you
Yeah.
get your speed up by pumping?
Yeah, I see people doing that like down the boardwalk.
You can almost get it from standstill.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'd love to. We'll connect through Louis,
get
and
it.
we'll,
Oh, yeah.
we'll do something together.
Cool. I know Thomas was telling me like you guys have really like upped your game with the Seek Discomfort stuff, like looking to more sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely
Ethical.
like being here and being exposed to that kind of passion, that kind of like just true commitment to sustainability makes me want to, bring that to our operation and Seek Discomfort, which,
Yeah.
we've begun last year by sourcing just more sustainable garments, but obviously it's just one step, and in a long road ahead of striving to be just fully sustainable, looking up to companies like Patagonia and all the companies that do great work in that space. This guy can just wake up every day being super happy that what he does doesn't really harm anyone or anything. You need to be operating in a way that actually makes you feel like your net contribution to the world is positive. But I can't imagine like working for a company that isn't doing good for the world. Like, the more you align your lifestyle with your values, the more you're just gonna get more out of life, because you're gonna actually be able to be present with these moments and be out enjoying nature, knowing that you are contributing to protecting it rather than, being a part of the problem.
The vast majority of people would say they want to make the world a better place. And then, unfortunately, the systems that they're almost the invisible systems that just we live by. A lot of my adult life, I wasn't aware of this, but like understanding how bad the meat and dairy industry is for the planet, and then like starting to realize, oh, that's just food, and kind of like, there's so many other elements to our life. And you were saying like it can almost be overwhelming.
Ignorance is a bliss, and that's why people decide just to stay conforming within all these systems, because you
You start
if you
dismantling
start
them,
dismantling
it's-
everything, you're gonna realize like, oh my god,
You know, it's like pulling the thread. It's like pulling the thread
Yeah,
on the clothes, and
exactly.
it's like, oh, just keep pulling, and
So-
then like the whole thing.
Oh my
comes undone.
god, the deodorant that I used my whole life has heavy metals. Oh my god, like this, my favorite thing that I used to get from the grocery store has this really bad thing for it. And then you just realize that that's why the majority of the world just chooses to live in that ignorance, because it's really hard once you start deconstructing all these systems that we live within. I think that's where the power of community comes in, because you're able to, it's already really fucking hard to get that point of like the Venn diagram when everything aligns. So you're sure gonna need people that can back you up on that journey. I'm like far from perfect and a lot of waste and environmental stuff, but you know, experiences like this, to just see that passion radiates, and it makes me want to take that passion and put it in my own life.
Yeah, like how do you apply what he's applied to surfing? How do we apply that to the things that we love? Like how do we optimize the human experience? How do we optimize the way that we do everything?
Yeah.
And not create, not just waste, but yeah, like damage. The problem I see, and I don't know, and maybe I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but how do we progress and get better and support each other to do, to even in our imperfection, to do what we can without feeling like we're going to get attacked, or this whole cancel culture thing?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts?
I think for the people that are trying to take a positive step towards sustainability, or towards just more environmental awareness,
Yeah.
to realize that, you know, done is better than perfect, and for the allies and the people that really care, not to cancel someone just because they tried something and failed in another way. And you know, that was definitely a fear when we first put, because the second you announce that you're, you know, want to do something environmental or something sustainable, then all of a sudden you attract the people that really care.
Yeah.
And they start looking into, so what is it that you're trying to do to be sustainable? Well, there's all these 27 places that you are not sustainable, so you can't really say that. Rather than being like, well, this is an amazing job, amazing first step. And I see, that's why I also have friends who, you know, are always hesitant of like,
Yeah.
just, you know, even
To say anything.
Exactly.
What I'm trying to figure out, and I don't have the answers, but it's like, how do we help create a world through the influence that we have, even amongst our other creator friends online, where there isn't this fear of like, oh, I'm gonna get cancelled as soon as I speak up about something.
That's the problem with the internet. It's just like, when people are anonymous, they just turn into dicks. You know, it's.
So how do we solve that? I'm not saying we can, but like, is there something?
It's solved knowing, like, if you are making this step and you're genuine about your intention of why you're doing it, then whatever it is
Don't
that
be
they say
discouraged.
shouldn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And that's how we've done it in Yes Theory. And that's what I was trying to say, is that being in a group helps support in moments like this, where maybe someone is like putting something mean in the comments, or you're being attacked for trying to do something positive.
Yeah, and it might not be, I mean, this probably applies to any cause that anything that you're trying to do to make the world a better place.
Exactly.
It's not even around environmentalism. And I was trying to briefly talk to Ryan in there about like these different causes that we care about. There's so much overlap.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's like racial injustice, environmental injustice, like gender injustice, there's all of these different core topics, but it's all connected, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there's so many lessons I learned from Ryan today about, like, firstly, wanting to live with that level of passion with everything I'm doing. You know, I feel like it's exciting just to be around that energy.
Yeah.
And then just seeing how he's really thought through not just how can I reduce the waste from what I'm doing, but how can I turn that into something beautiful and useful, you know?
Yeah.
Like the artistic side of it and the creativity of like doing something crazy, like using worms that eat plastic and trying that out, and then okay, maybe that didn't work as well as he wanted, and then it's like trying something new. And I just love like the mix of like problem solving, using innovation, creativity, and I think that all those are all lessons I'd love to take away and apply to whatever problems I'm trying to solve in my life, you know.
Same. So Louis got engaged.
Oh yeah.
How was that? That's a big discomfort moment
Yes.
to just like
Yeah.
take the step towards such a.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I remember a few years ago. I was kind of terrified, not of the commitment side of it, but more of the creating that moment. And do you remember I came to your guys, the Yes House, and it was like, I need some help with this. Like, I don't know how to do this because it's so daunting to be like, I'm essentially creating a moment that is supposed to be like one of the most memorable, amazing, best moments of your life. And I just felt a lot of pressure. But at the end of the day, it was like just symbolizing a new chapter for me and Raya. And yeah, it couldn't have gone better. I was super, super excited.
Where did you do it?
Proposed in Costa Rica in our land.
Wow.
The moment we first saw our land, and then it's just dreaming now. Obviously we got the wedding to plan and all that, but for me it's like the symbolism was we're building this new life in this community that's all very new to us, and it's like the very first day that we get to experience this plot of land that we're going to end up spending so much of our life on. It was like what a
perfect moment.
Perfect moment, yeah.
Tell me more about the land and your vision for it.
Raya talks about like, essentially there's three pillars, right? There's like your own yourself thriving as an individual, whether that's your mental health, your body, or your journey as an individual. Then there's like the community health, your community thriving. What does it look like for society to thrive? And then there's like the world, the planet, the environment, nature.
Yeah.
And how can you have this symbiotic like crossover between like you thriving, your community thriving, and the planet thriving? This particular eco-village is called Alegria, and it's all about like how can we create an experience of family and community in our day-to-day life that's also really like nurturing and looking after the environment. So it's like planting a lot of trees, growing a lot of our own food, having like the whole supply chain of what we're consuming, and going back to what Ryan was saying, like the waste, we're not being overly wasteful. For me, it's being physically with people, which I know is a big part of your passion, and like you were saying, like that's when you can get back to doing live events and trips and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was interesting what you were saying earlier to me, is like that it's still, because for some people they can't have access to that physically.
Yeah.
Or they're connecting with people that they're not in the same physical space as. And there's still something incredible about digital communities. But I guess the big question is like, is the digital community enough? Or is the long-term goal is to connect people in, even if it's with smaller like physical hubs in the places that they're at, which I know you guys have already been doing as well.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think at least the digital community that I would like to be a part of is one that extends into the real world, and one is only created to be a bridge for an enhanced real world connection. Because now we're actually going through the filtering process of people who are aligned on a certain vision or certain set of values based on their attraction to this online community, based on whether it's a podcast, whether it's videos, blog, like in whatever form that comes, that community gets to be formed. It forms around something.
Yeah.
And when it forms around something, as I said, it kind of gives you a.
Did they recognize us?
Yeah. That's funny. So, as I said, it goes back to using online communities to create an enhanced extension in real life, because you already go through the filtering system for people. People already, you don't need to go about your life trying to find the people that align with your values, because you already are gravitating towards something that gives you an indication that these are also people that believe in the same thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah, totally,
when you get together, like when you show up to a Yes Theory meetup, you already know.
You already know that the kind of people that are going to
Exactly.
be there.
You already know that you can go up and you don't need to know who they are, or you can be a like complete stranger just going up, striking conversation, and that will be fully accepted, and you'll actually be appreciated for it, because through the storytelling, through the experiences that Yes Theory has highlighted and the people that we've shown, we're able to show that this is just like the framework that we've chosen for our lives, and that's how we create all these deep connections and amazing memories together.
What we're currently living in this social media age of like global connection, it's like being a blip on the radar. Like it's only just started. It's like we're probably the first generation that's really lived from like barely usable internet to this amazing video calls of people around the planet. And then it's weird thinking to my grandparents' generation, who I think my grandpa grew up without electricity in his house. So it's like that whole, but with it all, and I think because it's so early and it's almost like the Wild West. Did you watch the Social
Dilemma. I have.
And
Pretty scary stuff.
it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because it's like, for those who haven't watched, it's like showing you all of the dangers and the damage and the manipulation of these big social network like platforms and the algorithms, and how it can create this very damaging, especially for mental health.
Yeah.
But in it all, there's so much beauty as well, right? So it's like, how do you find that balance of not getting addicted and depressed from it all, and seeing it as a beautiful space where we can change the world? That's the balance.
Man,
that's
it's
the trick.
I was actually reflecting on that the other day, and
because Matt's like, he's kind of like doesn't want to have.
he doesn't
He like
have
deleted an Instagram last year, and
he doesn't have anything.
I'm kind of jealous in a way.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you gotta definitely respect the move and respect his own like just desire to protect his mind. And
Yeah.
cognitively, we don't even understand how much like the amount of times dopamine receptors get triggered per day because of now the amount we don't understand how much that's affecting our cognition and our experience of life. So the discomfort that comes with all these tools existing and hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on making them more addictive, you really got to seek the discomfort to protect your mind against it. And again, I say that being very much feeling like the effects of the problem, because I'm definitely addicted to my phone. I'm definitely addicted to social
So
media.
you're saying the discomfort would be like
to
fight against the addiction?
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's like the different times, different dangers. 200, well, however long, 100,000 years ago, the danger was that you're going to get eaten out in the wild, and you had to really protect yourself from that. And right now, we don't need to worry about that, but we actually need to worry about other things that can really eat our minds.
Yeah.
And that's one of those dangers. And I think that thinking about it in this way is helping me, understand that how big of a fight I'm up against.
Yeah. And if I just thought of another thing, I remember a couple of years back you were doing do you still do it, 100 Days of Sweat?
I did it last year, but not this year. Actually, even last.
So Ammar did this thing where it was like, I guess, was it? I mean, you can probably explain it better, but it was more that you were struggling to be moving, and you just set yourself that goal of at least breaking a sweat every day.
Every day for 100 days. For my whole life, I've struggled with depression and times where I really couldn't get out of bed, and again, that contrasting this amazing life that I have with my best friends, it was always very confusing, because on one hand I'm feeling really fulfilled and I'm feeling like I am on purpose, but on the other hand, there's a part of my mind that I can't control that ends up really affecting my everyday life. And I've discovered that movement has been a great way of getting out of my mind and getting into my body. And
so that was more about supporting your mental health than your physical health.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with like a certain shape or a certain physique that I wanted. It was purely for my mind, and that's why the challenge was to just literally move until you break a sweat every day. It doesn't need to be a workout. Actually, I would say majority of the days it wasn't even a workout, but it was just more of getting through that mental barrier of getting me to leave my room, to leave my apartment, and just get out and do something. And then throughout the journey, you know, I end up linking up with a lot more friends that I've worked out with and played paddle tennis on the beach with, and it really enhanced my sense of community, and it inspired a lot more people to also start, which has been, I continue to be inspired by the people that send me messages being like, hey, I just finished my 100 days of sweat. Even though I'm not doing it anymore, people are continuously like taking up the rounds and doing 100 days of sweat. So it's been, it's amazing that, you know, in moments where I felt inspired and been able to do something that, you know, inspired someone else, the fact that someone else does that thing ends up inspiring me later. So it's like a circular loop of inspiration that, because it's definitely not constant. I don't feel like seeking discomfort all the time. You know, I have moments where I just want to be in my fucking apartment and like not talk to anyone, not do anything. And you know, in these moments, you really have to honor yourself and you honor your mind and body for whatever space you need to recover.
Yeah, I guess that's the key, right? It's like whatever helps you look after your mental health, whether that's cutting down on how much you're using social media, whether that's trying to move every day and get some movement in, whether it's, I mean, you inspired me after you took me to Alaska to start doing the cold plunges. And I did those for like 3 months every day, like 5-minute cold plunges.
Wow.
And I haven't been doing it recently, but it was like transformational. And it wasn't that I was particularly struggling with depression or anything, but it definitely helped me with motivation, where I was feeling a lot of not very motivated. Like that's probably the biggest challenge I get sometimes, is just feeling like, oh, I know I've got all this stuff to do, but I'm going to procrastinate and like watch another TV show.
Yeah.
Which again, maybe that's my way of looking after my mental health, but I just remember getting in the ice bath for 5 minutes, and there was never the excuse that, oh, it's going to take too long. So I was like, it's literally 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It would transform my day.
Yeah.
And I know you were saying on the way here, like your Wim Hof and your relationship with the cold has really transformed your
huge
life.
Pillar of my life. The cold has been my greatest teacher, which is actually, that's why I gotta be back to the S house, because I'm installing
like 15 minutes ago.
a plunge. Yeah, actually Thomas is calling. Let's bring him onto the. Hey bud, say hi to Louis' podcast.
Yo. Yo.
I've been with Louis all morning. Just had this amazing experience with this guy that makes surfboards with zero waste, and it's a fucking fascinating process.
You would love it, bro.
I was like, Thomas should have been the one here, but
we'll go back.
We'll definitely go back. His process is amazing, and he's just such an amazing, passionate human. Yeah.
So obviously, Thomas is trapped out the country right now, and I guess there's been a lot of plans needing changing, whether it was because of COVID last year and you had to change a ton of video ideas. And now, like, Thomas was supposed to have come back, like a month ago or longer?
More.
2 months ago?
At the beginning of the year, yeah.
How do you personally deal with, like, having expectations change dramatically, or like feeling let down by, like, you had an expectation and then something suddenly shifts? So I feel like that's something I struggle with a lot, is not so much adapting, but just like if there's a ton of stuff I've planned because of a certain expectation and then that doesn't happen, you know what I mean? How do you cope with that personally?
It's something that my parents, through the different like Muslim principles, instated in me as a kid, which is وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And that translates to, it's a verse from the Quran, and it translates to, and beware to not like something or to hate something, and it's actually good for you. And it basically, the premise here is in the good that hides sometimes in the uncertain, and hides sometimes in the change of plans, and how, you know, rejection can just be redirection. So ever since I was a kid, whenever something really bad happens, I always thought, oh, I was just protected from something even worse happening. And that just always gives me such peace, and ability to like emotionally regulate when shit is really hitting the fan and there's something extreme. And that's happened multiple times in my life, where I always just like, the first thing I remember is that verse. Most recently, I experienced this with this dream skydiving stunt that I've been training for 2.5 years. Ever since I started skydiving, I had this jump in mind. And the day of the jump, I had the airport cleared and everything so set. I was like, I couldn't believe how organized this whole thing was.
This is like a Monday, right?
This was like, yeah, this literally 6 days ago. And we wake up in the morning of the stunt after like I visualized the whole night, like I'm fully set, my mind is there. And the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Federation, turned our request to clear the airspace because I was gonna, the jump is a halo jump. I jump from 25,000 feet, which is more than double regular jumping altitude. And FAA said no, and usually when FAA says no, that's like, it's a no, and you're not gonna fly. But, you know, and obviously...
Did they give a reason?
No. It's
just like, nah.
Yeah. It was a Monday morning, and I think the guy didn't want to do the work. Simple as that. I can relate, coming from Egypt.
Yeah.
But so we end up getting that rejection, and you know, obviously, you know, these circumstances, the mind is very vulnerable. I need to stay focused. I have like 12 friends out with me, you know, who slept at that airport area the night before, like 3 hours away from LA, and things continue to change and things continue to like not look in flow anymore. But throughout that whole morning and whole afternoon, I just continue to believe that something better is meant to happen, or if I go up in the air right now, maybe something, you know, I always just think of the alternatives that I don't know, and that gives me a lot of peace. And actually, in that situation, even though I end up getting we end up getting clearance to another airport that was like an hour and a half drive away, and then it ended up changing a lot of the plans, but it ended up being a lot of a better place for my friends and the loved ones that I had with me to watch it. And even in terms of like my landing, it felt a lot more raw. It wasn't an airport that had all these buildings around. It was just literally a dirt runway that the military used to do emergency landings.
I think a lot of people struggle with control and feeling like they're losing control of situations, and then there's the stress of like, oh my gosh, it's not going to plan.
Yeah.
And I think there's something beautiful and something we've probably both tapped into, and a bunch of our friends, where when you surrender to, which is kind of what you're explaining, right?
Exactly.
When you kind of just surrender to what's happening.
Yeah, the divine flow of how things roll.
Things will happen that you couldn't have planned.
Yeah.
Things will, like, you'll meet certain people and certain things will happen, and like you'll walk past a party where you hear music on the rooftop, and you'll walk in, and maybe that wasn't your plan for the night. You know, if you'd had a really strict plan, you might have missed that opportunity. You might have never met Thomas. You might have never started your series. So it's like, I think just letting go.
Yeah. And faith is really important.
Yeah.
And you know, in whatever framework that faith comes in, it doesn't need to be you don't need to be a certain religion or a certain spiritual, denomination. It's just having faith in something bigger than you that can give you that peace and serenity in going about your life, and knowing that there is something bigger at play, and you're not the center of the universe, and you're that whatever grip and control you think you have is just an illusion. So, yeah, I mean, I attribute faith as the fundamentals of faith, and having been brought up as Muslim to really come and save me in moments that would have been terrifying otherwise. And I've had, again, so many of these moments throughout where I really had to just be, there's something better waiting at the other side.
So tell me more about the jump. What's happening with it? Can you tell us much?
Yeah. So the video should be out, the full story. Which I'll take a step back. The jump was pretty significant. The reason the jump is pretty significant is because I almost lost my life in the middle of the process of training. Because one day, after coming back from training, I got in a car accident, and that just completely shook my life, and took me out for 6 months, and I was pretty scared to get back.
Thanks for coming in a vehicle with me. I realised on the way here, especially when that guy
that was exactly how my accident happened.
I was
I flinched hard.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, I hope I'm not re-triggering like trauma from your car accident.
It's all good. It's actually interesting. Like, my trauma wasn't as clear as it was. Like, it wasn't just that I started being scared of driving or scared of like merging onto exits. The trauma came in the form of like just like little mini fears that started building up in my relationship with the outside world. I actually started being afraid of going outside of my apartment.
So just more introverted.
Yeah,
or more
and
like...
I started feeling my nervous system was still spiked for months after that. I would feel cold in environments and in temperatures where I usually never felt cold. And for someone that is so connected to like cold and ice plunges and all of that, for me to be like, it's like I was cold as you, that like you would get cold. And it's so hard on the mind and on the body. And because it was such a big part of my identity, I struggled for like most of the winter, just not knowing what's going on, until I think things really started turning around when I went back to skydiving, and I like just went through the fear, and I went back up in the sky, and I made the drive back out, and then I started actually noticing that like my body temperature regulation is starting to be back to normal, and I'm like, I just came back from Mammoth last night, and I took everybody on an underwear run.
Amazing.
Oh, you remember when we were in France? We did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bro, I'll do it this time.
We have some fucking crazy memories.
Next time you go snowboarding, I'm coming, bro.
So yeah, we were in France in November of 2018, and we skied together. And
running through the streets. I remember now. Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you remember? Because I was just like, nah, I can't.
And then when we went skiing, I think it was when I think Raya got hurt, and when we went skiing, yeah, that was crazy. But I took everybody on an underwear run, and it was really fucking cold. Yesterday was like a spring day in Mammoth, but it was super fun.
So as we end this amazing conversation, I firstly want to say thanks for coming on, bro. I know like
I'm honored,
you're a
man.
busy guy, and there's loads going on, but I've loved just diving into some of these like conversations together. Is there like a final kind of message that you want to leave people pondering today from maybe what you've been thinking about, stuff that's going on, and something with meeting Ryan today? What's your closing words?
Just reflecting on the experience with Ryan, and you know, the radiant energy that you experience meeting someone who lives an aligned life like this. It's really worth you putting in the effort to see where are the places in your life that you can align better. Because as I said, your overall experience of life is just going to be so much more fulfilling and so much happier and so much more full. And
even the small steps.
And the other thing is just, you know, something that I reflect on a lot is the only way out is through. The only way out of fear is through it. The only way out of depression is through it. Because it's all just different lessons and different learning experiences that really allow you to be who you're meant to be. And that's why you have to go through it. You can't just go past it. You can't go around it. You will be who you are meant to be when you go through all these different things that come your way, and you know, make it to the other side with all the learnings that it gave you. Whether it's because you succeeded at going through it or you failed, and that gives you a better chance at doing it the following time.
Bro, I'll let you go. I'm dropping him home late, so
all good.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I'm honored to be the first guest. I can't wait to see the format and just see all the amazing people that you're gonna have on. Look forward to seeing it be out. Thank you for having me, bud.
Let's hang out again soon.
Yes. Let's do an ocean dip.
Yes, I'm down.
Sunset.
I'm down. We did it the other night. You would have loved it.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Ammar and Ryan and subscribe to this podcast for future episodes. Please leave a comment suggesting future guests you'd like to see on the show.